Have you ever dreamed of being a leader of the world or leader of some group or whatever? I submit to you that maybe this is not something that we should take lightly if we consider doing it at all. I want to talk today about the subject of, quote, king of the world, end of quote, on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Friday, the 29th of October of 2021. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. And again, the subject that I want to discuss today is king of the world, and I'm going to go through my notes very quickly, in which I will kind of explain what it is that I'm getting at. Does anybody really want the job is sort of the subtitle for this. King of the world, does anybody really want the job? When I was but a pup, I had a fantasy. I thought it was a reasonable dream for the future at the time. I dreamed I had something akin to a castle. It was more of a manor, to be fair, in which resided a group of people who were all in accord. They all agreed. You can imagine the leader of the pack was me. My son has stated more than a few times that he wanted to take over the world. That notion was not his own, as far as I'm able to tell, but the result of seeing people talk about doing so and generally failing to accomplish it on, quote, television, end of quote. I mean, streaming services and similar these days, but you get the idea. My childhood daydream has long since left me. My point in bringing up both myself and my son may not be what you think. It is, to make it plain, I think it's somewhat likely that a lot of young folks have had this same delusion on a grander or more down-to-earth scale. It's been pointed out that people who sit in the office of the President of the United States seem to age dramatically by and large. Not so much for some. We can say that some of them didn't happen to nearly as much as a result of that experience, as a result of sitting on that throne, right? People have stated it in a variety of ways. One of the common ones is something like, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Being a leader, even of a small group, much less a country, and certainly less than ruling the world, is not easy. The more you care about those you, quote, lead, end of quote, the harder it ends up being. In fact, the reason America was set up as it was not just to reduce the power of the federal government, but to take some of the pressure off of the national leadership. That was a good thing on multiple fronts. The first is the folks at the top don't have authority past a certain point, which reduces their responsibility commensurately, and so on the same token. The second obvious thing is that the country's top echelon really don't know what's happening around the country. There was a supposed speech by Colonel Davy Crockett in which he indicated that the giving of charity on the federal governmental level was against the Constitution. I would argue that that's true at all levels of government, that it's probably against their charter documents. That's whether to individuals or individual states, or frankly, whoever. But the point of all of this is simple. Being a leader is not something to take lightly. You want to be the king of the world? Perhaps you should rethink that. Okay, so to Mr. Crockett's speech. It is rumored that he refused the giving of money to a retired military member because he said it was being done as a charitable act, and that the government couldn't do charity, and that they had paid him what he was owed, and therefore they were not in arrears to him, and had no responsibility to pay him anything. That's what he said there. And he said that what actually drove that, if you listen to various videos, I watched one this morning again to get the story back in my head. I'd actually seen this on one of the government websites, right? I forget where now. But it said that he talked to a guy, I think the guy's name was Horatio Bunce, I believe that's correct. And he on talking to that guy, came to understand that there had been a fire in Georgetown, I think it was, and they had seen the fire from Congress or wherever, somewhere nearby, and they had raced out to find out what had happened. And when they found out that a bunch of houses had been destroyed and it was bitterly cold and so forth, they immediately went forth and passed a bill designating $20,000 to that entity, right, to the people who had lost the money. And Horatio, I think his name is, said, yeah, you don't have the right to do that. That's charity, and you can't give charity. And he said something else that's really important. He said, when you take from one, or when you give to one, you take from another. Basically, it is redistributive. And that's literally something that you can go back to the 1800s and find people saying Davy Crockett among them, Colonel Davy Crockett among them. But the point of all of this is to say this simple thing. Whether you think that leadership is something that people do a great job of or a bad job of, you need to understand one thing and understand it well. When people lead, it is a hard thing. And if it's not, it ought to be, because you are become responsible for a lot of folks. I pointed out something years ago, and it was that back when Meg Whitman, I think was her name, was the head of HP, and people were saying it's not right that she gets paid $10 million for what she's doing. And my answer to them was, you realize that she's responsible for more than 250,000 people, right? That not totally responsible, not in every way, but as a business leader, that's what she's responsible for. And if she steers that cart off of a cliff, or, ship into the deep, obviously you're going to wish that she hadn't, and so are a whole lot of folks who are working for her. And this is another example of why being king of the world is not such a grand thing. I'm not saying that you should never seek positions of leadership. What I'm saying is that you should stop having this rose-colored glasses vision of leadership being about people who just tell folks what to do as they want to, and you should realize that there's actually this level of responsibility that comes along with leadership, and it's awfully hard on a lot of those folks, on any reasonable person who's working in those leadership positions, to do that. I don't care if it's in government, whether it's in business, whether it's being the head of a family, whether it's being responsible for one other human being. You as a leader must understand that heavy is the head that wears the crown. However small group of people that crown is ruling over, heavy is the head that wears the crown, because it's a very difficult thing. And if you're a reasonable human being and you are the leader of others, you want their best. And the only way you're going to accomplish that, from what I can tell, from what I can see, is if you take the time to figure out how to make things work best for those around you. And I'm here to tell you, that is not an easy thing. And the more people you deal with where that's concerned, the harder it becomes. And it doesn't matter whether you're just the manager or a supervisor in some business, or whether you're the CEO of that business, or a president, or people who are in leadership positions at much lower positions, and it doesn't matter whether you're an executive or a legislator or a judicial person. When you wear that crown, your responsibility is a horribly heavy burden if you're anything like a reasonable human being. And this is what I'm trying to get across today. You might think that you want to be king of the world, and this is particularly true when you're younger. Let me just tell you, you're going to find it's hard enough just to be the head or one of the leaders of a family. That's hard enough. When you start doing things like running for government offices, even at low levels, you're going to find that that's a pretty difficult and fairly hard thing to do. All right, I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Friday, the 29th of October of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Saturday, the 30th of October of 2021. Today will be the beginning of that Sabbath for those who observe it. And again, that means tomorrow will be the end of the Sabbath at sundown, as I understand it tomorrow. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, and YouTube. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform. You can give me a positive feedback if you choose to do so on Rumble by hitting the boxing glove or the plus. You can give me a negative feedback if you want to do so by hitting the minus. I hope you don't want to, but if you feel the need to do that, I understand totally. You can give me a thumbs up, which is the positive feedback on YouTube. You can give me a thumbs down, which is their implementation of the negative feedback on YouTube, again, if you feel the need to do that, and I hope that that's not the case. Remember that you can comment on any platform where the opportunity exists, and I will do my best to pay attention to your comments and respond if I feel it a reasonable thing to do. Today's subject has been the king of the world, and in fact, tomorrow's subject is off of a comment that I got from somebody. It may not seem related. They asked me why I don't subscribe to a lot of different folks on Rumble, as it happens, and my response is going to be partially in the realm of time management, and that's going to be my subject for tomorrow, time management. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope you're moving ever closer towards that weekend if you're one of those people who works the standard work week, and hopefully everything is going good for you one way or another. And as is usual, I hope that I will see you again on Saturday's edition, not Friday's, but Saturday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Friday, October 29th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.